This is Karl Groom from Threshold, and you're listening to the radio show Heavy Demons.
Okay, dear Karl, what shall the audience, the fans, expect from Legend of the Shires?
Well, it's something that we probably didn't expect when we started writing, I should imagine. I mean, we didn't expect it to be a double album, and we certainly didn't expect to make a concept album. But when Richard and I decided we wanted to start writing a new album, we both had ideas for music. But we had no idea that we wouldn't run out of ideas. We thought usually when you get to between us about 50 minutes or an hour, we sort of feel like we've said everything we need to. But when we got to that point this time, we both of us just had ideas for more and more music. And I said, I'm still inspired to write more. I haven't finished. Can we just try some more? And Richard said, I feel the same. And we just kept going until the process was naturally come to a conclusion. And we... pretty much everything we wrote, nearly all of it, felt like it should be grouped together and on the same album. And at that point, Richard said, I've always wanted to make a double concept album. This is our chance. So we sort of looked at it from that point of view, and I guess people should expect, an album that's, I think, an hour and 22 minutes long, and it just fits onto 4 sides of vinyl with all the songs in the right order. And it's I think it's double CD as well, so should be interesting.
Yeah, and what can you tell us about the amazing artwork by the Russian artist Elena Dudina?
Well, we did try and pursue sort of all sorts of bits and pieces of artwork, and some that we found had already gone. Other people had taken, and others weren't quite 100%, and we just left it until we were desperate. It was the last minute. And Richard just found this girl online who wasn't really doing too many CD artworks, but just said, this is the one, this looks amazing. So I sent it over, and when I saw it, we thought, this actually sort of visually describes what our album's about, which is what you're always aiming for. You look at that and you think, it looks like a true concept album. There's something about it that draws you in, and it felt right for us. And, we hadn't used green before on our covers, and just thought it was something new, and it fitted this particular album, had the right feel to it. So we were very lucky, really. And it's very hard to commission an artist to say, this is our album, it's about whatever the subject matter is, and then try and box them into that. The best thing I've found recently is to find the artwork complete already, which fits your music. But of course that's quite difficult because we've been looking for months. And it's just that we got lucky at the end, really. We had a few backup plans, but, this came from nowhere, and we were exceptionally lucky in the end, I guess.
Yeah, and what about the return? It was like quite a surprise, the return of Glyn Morgan, since the times of Psychedelicatessen and Live Delica.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan on vocals.
I guess it goes to Damien, really. We weren't really looking to make a change. We hadn't thought about it. But just I think it was in October, Damien came to me and said that he was going to leave Threshold. At the same time, we did a show in Holland. We did Prog Power Europe, and he'd been having this conversation with me, sort of saying who would replace me if I left. And I thought it was some just strange conversation in the van on the way home. But later he came to me in the studio and said, I'm definitely going to move on. I'm going to go and do something else. And he gave me a couple of names of people to replace him, which were the names he talked about before. And Richard and I sort of weren't that keen. And we just said, well, maybe we should contact Glyn.
Like in 94.
Yeah. Well, it's just that Glyn had, when Damien came back in 2007, Glyn contacted us not long afterwards and said, I see Max leaving, I'd really like to be back in the band again, is there any chance? And we said, oh, sorry, Damien's already rejoined the band, but he was always interested. And we did work with him again in 2009 on our singles box set. And he's done a few things over the years. He's, always been interested and always had a great voice. So he was in our mind, but I think a few weeks after Damien said he was leaving, he said he wanted to come back. So he came back and did a show which we had planned in Switzerland, Ice Rock, I think it was called. And he started recording the album as well. But it wasn't really the same after he said he was leaving, and we just sort of felt something was wrong. It didn't have the same feeling, and I thought, well, I don't really want to be forcing someone to be in a band like Threshold. You know, it should be a real privilege to play to our fans, you know, the people that supported us so many years. You know, I don't really feel like if he's not 100% into playing in the band that he should be there. So in the end, we made the decision to move on and sort of, you know, Damien did a great job and we haven't really fallen out with him. There's not really any major argument. It's just that I don't really want someone that's not that keen to be in the band. He wasn't available for some shows we wanted to do as well. And everything just sort of added up to feeling like it was the time to move on.
Yeah, and Threshold is something like a trademark, because you're one of the few bands who go on with different singers, always being the same, I mean, without changing your style, your trademark. So that's amazing.
But there are a couple of things. I mean, firstly, the majority of music now is written by myself and Richard, the keyboard player. So I suppose we're writing all the music. You know, I'm writing the music, Richard's writing the melody lines and lyrics, and that's already set. I mean, we always write and demo the songs with a female vocal, and that sort of translates to any singer that we've ever used. So we're not really writing for a particular singer when we write music. I always feel like if I start thinking about the end result too much, that will limit me what I want to do, and then we'll write the same music as we did before. So I don't think that's a problem. And I guess I feel like anyone, including myself or Richard, is dispensable in the band as long as we understand where Threshold is going. You know, there's a core element to what we did, and that was to take the sort of metal bands that we liked when we first started, which were Testament and Metallica, that sort of thing, and mix it with the music John Deary loved, which was sort of Rush and Genesis and all those progressive bands. That was our aim when we started. And we found, instead of joining some scene like prog metal as it is today, we just mixed the two elements as we thought they should be, and that sort of became the Threshold sound, very much mixed with our English sort of sound as well, I guess. And we never deviated from that basic ethos or idea. Obviously, the sounds evolved over the years, and we've got different influences and so on, but there is a kind of a core Threshold sound, and which is more important than any of the individual band members. And I think that's been tested, you know, when people have come and gone, and you know, it's just the way it is. Really, the band is stronger than any one individual.
Yeah, that the identity is already there.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, that's what we really wanted to put across. That the band gives its own sounds rather than. You know, I think it's a good thing. Really, I love bands that I can listen to without actually knowing the music. Hear it on the radio, and I say, "Oh, yeah, that's kind of Pink Floyd."
Yeah.
You know, someone that's got an identity, even though it's a different song, and you move on and have a different sound, you feel like there's something there that's identifiable. I think it's a trademark, really.
Yeah. And what about the amazing single and the video as well as More Dire Lines?
Oh yes, that was out this week or last week, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, it gave us a chance to show people, you know, along with the other song that's out. What was the other video we put out? Lost in Translation, I think, the 10-minute version.
Video, yeah.
That gives those two tracks give you a good idea of the two extremes of the album. You know, the slightly simpler arrangement and the heavier riffs on Small Dark Lines, and then we had the full blown sort of progressive elements of Lost in Translation. So it gives you an idea of two of the elements that are on the album. And I don't know, this album just seemed to work for Glyn. You know, he had a few weeks to learn the music, and he came in. Somehow his voice just seems to have come to the right place with this album. It gives it that little bit more power, like Mac used to have with the rougher edge, I think, and it worked on this music. I guess some people are really interested in hearing what he might sound like live as well, doing some of Mac's songs, some of the ones that he wasn't able to perform before that were on Dead Reckoning.
Yeah, he's got the roar.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he does have that. But I mean, you can see the two types of voice as well between Lost in Translation and Small Dark Lines. Yeah. You can see the two different styles that Glyn has there.
Yeah, and what can we expect like for the tour?
Well, I think we'll play some old songs that Glyn was involved in. Particularly, people wanted to hear Innocent, which was a song he wrote on Psychedelicatessen, so that's popular. So we'll definitely play that, and probably something else off that album. And then, of course, there'll be plenty off the new album, and some favourites that fans want to hear, from the whole catalogue. But And by the time we incorporate all those elements, that's enough to fill 2 hours instantly. It's the problem with having 11 studio albums now. Picking a live set becomes quite difficult.
So, which final message and greeting would you give to the Italian fans of Threshold?
I really hope this album makes a contact with them, because I think that's my inspiration really for writing music, is that you're making a contact with people that you don't know in a sort of an emotional way through music. I think it's a real privilege. So I hope people can really connect with this album and enjoy it. I know it's quite long, but it's structured in a way that's really important, so that if you listen from beginning to end, hopefully the dynamics take you through that hour and 20 minutes without losing too much concentration. I mean, I hope it's just enjoyable for them to hear.